Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, on how to improve Scum in 2026. Now, this is officially the video that I'm going to send with my document to Gamepires. They have asked a few content creators to give ideas on how to improve Scum. So this will be my official documentation video. So I will be sending Gamepires a document with all my suggestions, and then if they don't understand everything in the document, they can always just come to the video as a reference, as a visual reference. Like a lot of times, if you report a bug, they want you to give them the location of the bug, and they want you to recreate the bug. And usually they want a video. Okay, that's why I think a video is necessary. But in any case, this is my official ideas and suggestions on how to improve Scum. Now, what I would like all of you to do is give me at least one idea that you think will make a major difference to your experience in Scum. Please keep it realistic. Please keep it simple. Don't give me an idea that will probably take 2 to 3 years to implement. Give me something that you think they can do very quickly, that won't take a lot of work, and that will help your experience a lot. And please don't write down 20 ideas in the comments. Please stick to one idea, and if you really can't help yourself, 3 ideas. Okay, don't throw out random ideas. Even if you've got 30 ideas, let's stick to the top one, to the one that you think is the most important. And like I say, if you really can't help yourself, give 3 ideas, and then everyone can vote on the comments of which ones they like the most. And then, with the next video I make, I will definitely consider those upvoted or liked ideas and give that to the developers as well. But without further ado, let's start with point number 1. Number 1, soft and hard wipes limit the player experience. We have soft and hard wipes on average every 3 months. Doesn't matter how you want to cut it. If you want to be very forgiving, you can go every 6 months. But we all know it averages on basically every 3 months, whether it's a soft wipe or a hard wipe. Now, the biggest problem you have with that is, how do your players maximize their skills or their attributes in 3 to 6 months? That's your first problem. And one way you can really improve your player experience for your player base. I'm, of course, talking to Gamepires directly in this video. So, yeah, since wipes are a must over time, I can understand why wipes are a must. Server performance, too many bases, too many items. Okay, so we do understand that wipes are needed at some point. Now, full wipes might not be needed, but partial wipes will be needed. But if you're going to keep updating the game, then full wipes will probably still be a thing in the future. And all I want you to think about is, how fast do attributes and skills level up. The Scum has been existing for 8 years. And I want you to ask yourself, how many players has reached Advanced Plus in a skill? How many players has reached 8 strength? And when it comes to intelligence, do you know how many players are willing to do abandoned bunkers? Do you know that abandoned bunkers are not something that all your players does. So point number one, the speed at which players are leveling up skills and attributes is way too slow when partial and full wipes are a part of the game. If you want me to expand on that, I will, but I don't want to make the video too long, and I want to timestamp the video so you can skip to wherever you want to skip to, okay? But how to improve Scum? Give server owners attribute skill multiplier. Just like we can increase how fast skills level up, how fast players level up skills, give us the ability to control how fast players level up attributes. Because your game has been existing for 8 years, and at maximum 5% of players have experienced endgame, which means have done everything in the game, has reached 8 strength, and has got a lot of skills to Advanced Plus. And that will basically just be your hardcore. Point number 2, how to improve Scum in 2026. Skill gain needs to be balanced. It basically needs an overall. Because if you look at how quickly you can level up archery and engineering versus thievery and medical, you should have noticed years ago that your skill gains aren't balanced. Now, can server owners change that? Yes. On my newest server, Supermax, I've spent over 180 hours balancing everything that is unbalanced, in my opinion. But it took me a very, very long time. There's a lot of things that you can do. You've got shipwrecks, but there's no reason to visit the shipwrecks. You've got traders, but you don't have any valuable items in the game, like necklaces and artifacts and stuff that we can find in the shipwrecks just for money. You've got traders, but there's nothing, there's no treasure hunting. There's no reason to go to those shipwrecks unless you spend 30 hours like me putting treasures in those ships. But I can only put in the ships what you've given me. So that's one aspect on how to improve the experience of your player base. You've got masks, goggles, go underwater, but there's no reason to go underwater. No experienced player is going to go to a shipwreck to find very damaged items with no value. So it's these small things that won't take a ton of work to implement, but will help your players a lot. Like adding items to the game that is just there for monetary value. Treasures that you can add to shipwrecks. Treasures that you can hide on the map, that the person will be very excited if they find it. Okay? And biggest point in point number 2 is balancing that skill gain. Like, just play your own game. Look at how many puppets you have to kill with a bow to get to basic archery. Then you look at how much time you have to put into a base to get to basic engineering. Then you go and see how much time and effort you have to put in to get to basic thievery and medical. It's just not balanced. It needs more balancing. It needs a revamp. You need to adjust your game to adapt to the soft and the hard wipes, which links with point number 1. You took away wheelbarrow because you don't want your players to AFK. Instead of taking away wheelbarrowing, you should have realized that as soon as a big majority of your players are not playing your game and AFKing in their base to level up an attribute, there's a problem. And you cannot blame the player for trying to solve that problem, because it's almost impossible for that player to do it naturally. For instance, go onto the ocean with a boat or with the new rubber duck, that I love. Just paddle a boat on the ocean or in a river, and you will see that we are not gaining any strength. Swim in the ocean, and you will see that we are not gaining any strength. So instead of removing the wheelbarrow, I don't have a problem with you removing the wheelbarrow mechanic, but instead of removing the wheelbarrow mechanic, focus on your player experience. What other ways? Now, clearly we don't like the fact that most of our players are walking in a circle with a wheelbarrow, and we took that away from them. But what other options are we giving them? They want, like weight benches and treadmills and boxing bags, stuff like that we promised them 8 years ago. Apparently it's difficult for us to give them what we promised them, but what other options are we giving them? Well, swimming is a really great option. Why am I not gaining strength when I'm swimming with my character? Why am I not gaining strength and constitution when I am like paddling a boat, which clearly takes a lot of strength? And then, of course, my biggest suggestion is buffs. Plain and simple. When you drink antibiotics or you drink memory modules or ampules or painkillers or potassium, there's a buff where that thing stays in your system and gives you the benefit of that thing for a certain amount of time. We need those buffs with strength. Because Scum is based on realism, after I've cut down 100 trees, my strength mustn't stop increasing the instant I stop with the last tree. I have just cut down 100 trees, putting my muscles under extreme strain. So your muscles tear when you are working out, and then they rebuild when you're not working out. We need a buff. It's your game. You created something that everyone else wants to play, but get creative. Strength needs a buff. Maybe constitution needs a buff. Dexterity is very, very easy. I don't have a problem with constitution, but constitution and strength are the two biggest culprits now with quality of life, with how fun people are finding to level it up. And then with your intelligence, do a questionnaire, do a vote on your Discord, do a vote wherever you want, do a poll, do an in-game poll. How many of you have leveled up your intelligence in an abandoned bunker? How many of you have filled up a module, and then gone to the trader and increased your intelligence by 0.5? And if you're not happy with that number, try and help the vast majority of your players that haven't done that yet. Again, when I give constructive criticism, I'm not trying to let you do what I want you to do. If I basically told you, if I wanted to make myself happy, only 5% of your players would play this game. You would lose 95% of your players. Because I am the minority. I am in the minority when it comes to how much I want to suffer and struggle. So when I'm helping you, I'm thinking of the other 95%. Because I spend a lot of time with that 95%. I help that 95%. I talk to that 95%. They ask me questions. I look at them playing on my multiple servers. I look at their behavior. I see what they struggle with. I listen to them daily for the last 5 years at least. And that's why I'm trying to help you. I'm asking you to help yourself. I'm not asking you to help me. And then point number 3 is basically every point just gets strengthened by the previous point, okay? The attribute gains needs to be revamped. Like I say, dexterity is extremely easy. In point 2, I spoke about skill gain, balancing the skills. And then I expanded a little bit on attributes. But point 3 is basically just on attributes. Like maybe 5% of your players have reached 8 strength. I know I've only reached it once. And I had to AFK to reach the 8 strength. And there was one player on Meat Grinder, one of my hardcore players that basically paddled the boat for months to get to 8 strength. But I mean, at the moment, if you paddle a boat, you don't gain strength. If you swim, you don't gain strength. And it's these small little things that you need to focus on. So you need buffs. Again, like painkillers, antibiotics, potassium. Okay? And what I mean, to give you a visual representation here, if I spawn potassium and I eat it, then I've got a buff there. That green number is a buff. That is protecting me against something. If I eat antibiotics, if I take an antibiotic pill, I've got a buff. They're in green. I've got a buff. So I drank it once, but it's still in my system. Okay? Let's take 4 more of those. If I take painkillers, again, I've got a buff. Okay? I've got a buff. I've got buffs that are building up there. Because I drank something, the buff is going to build to a maximum point, and then it's going to stay in my system. Here we have an intelligence enhancement ampule. Always get confused between the module and the ampule. But in any case, if I drink the level 3 ampule, my intelligence is going to go up to 4. Going to get increased by 3. Intelligence enhancement means I'm getting 3 extra intelligence. Why? While this is in my system. So this is what I mean by buffs. When my character cuts down a tree, while I'm cutting down the tree, I'm not gaining strength. I'm not even gaining strength while I'm cutting down a tree. I'm gaining constitution, but I'm not gaining strength while I cut down a tree. But when I'm done cutting down the tree, that's done. Now, not gaining strength while you're cutting down a tree is extremely ridiculous. And these are the things that you need to look into in 2026. Your players are not gaining strength literally when they're cutting down a tree. I don't care if you tell me I need to add weight to myself or something like that. Any person that's cutting down a tree should be gaining strength. Okay? No matter what my weight is or whatever. And after every time I cut the tree down, I should be gaining a buff. Like when I cut down one tree, I should have like a 30-second buff or a 1 minute buff. It doesn't need to be insane, but I need to have at least a 1 minute buff. That's leveling up my strength and my constitution. So that's what I mean by buffs. When I row a boat, the longer I row the boat, the more the strength buff and constitution buff must build up. So that even when I get off the boat, those buffs are still running in the background. Not forever. Just like these aren't going to go forever. But the longer I exercise, the harder I exercise, the more that buff must become. Okay? I think this is a really, 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 really big one. So the first 3 points all connect. And what I want you to realize is you want everything to take extremely long. And there's no doubt about that. You want the person to level up their character to 8 strength naturally. But you also want to wipe their character or the map every 3 months. You have never leveled up a character naturally in your own game, but you want other people to do it. You have watched me play Scum. You have watched your other content creators play Scum. How many of them have characters with 8 strength? So we are your most experienced players. We are your hardcore players with thousands of hours. How many of us have reached 8 strength naturally? I know of one person in my community over the last 8 years that did it naturally. I don't call wheelbarrowing natural. I know about 5% of your player base probably reached 8 strength with the wheelbarrow. But since you took wheelbarrowing away, how many people have done it naturally? Food for thought. What you are asking your players to do doesn't align with how your game works with partial wipes and soft wipes and still developing your game and not fixing all the bugs, etc., 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 etc. You have to align those things. You have to balance your skills. You have to add buffs to strength and constitution, which people are complaining about every single month. And you have to give your server owners control over the tribute gain. You've already given us control over the skill gain, but you need to give us control over the tribute gain. You need to add more items to the game for monetary value, like treasures that you're going to add to shipwrecks. You need to think about improving your player experience with minimal work. Point number 4. We've got Danny Trejo's and a lot of DLC characters, which I've never used, but a lot of people do use them. But you've paid certain actors a lot of money, and then you're giving them royalties to those voice lines, which is good. I bought all your DLCs, although I'm not using all your DLCs, because not everybody wants to be Danny Trejo. Not everybody wants to be Louis Moncado. Okay? Some people just want to be them. So, the fourth point, how to improve Scum in 2026, is giving us a vanilla voice line. Even if you make it a DLC pack, a vanilla voice line, a normal voice line. There must be someone in your studio with a normal voice or a good sounding voice. Or you can pay one of the content creators which you think has a cool voice or a very vanilla voice, or whatever the case may be. You can pay different people for different voice packs. Okay, you can pay 5 women, not actors, not actresses, 5 normal women for 5 different female voice packs. And the things that they have to say won't take a year, okay? It will take a week or a month at most. And then you take 5 guys with 5 different voices, not actors, not someone that you have to pay a poop ton of money. I mean, I'll do voice lines for a one-time payment. And you can use it forever if you want. Okay, I've got a very unique voice. I'm South African. A lot of people like my voice. Other people don't like my voice. Just like some people like Danny Trejo and other people don't like Danny Trejo. You've got other UK voices and you've got American voices. If you just look at your content creators, you've got people from all over the world with very unique voices. So if you take a random person in your studio to record those male and female voices, you'll get sales, but you won't get fan purchases. Which means if you use my voice and Rakit's voice and Feudal's voice, you know, and maybe, I can't believe I've forgotten his name now, but the baseball bat, you know, Blaze, the Blaze bat. How you doing? You know, how you doing? That person is an American. Then you will get more sales because a lot of people, my entire community will want to use my voice. Rakit's community will want to use his voice. Feudal's community will want to use his voice. You see what I'm getting at? The difference is you don't have to pay us an insane amount of money. If the other content creators want an insane amount of money, that's on them. I just want to do what I can to help the game. My focus is the game and the players, not myself. If the other people's focus is themselves, like 90% of the world, you just have to think to yourself, you know, who focuses on the players and who focuses on themselves. If you're looking for people to help you, look at the right places. Don't just focus on numbers. Numbers can be bought. 90% of content creators are committing fraud by boosting their numbers in an unethical way. Everywhere. Twitch, YouTube, you name it. Now, so sponsors are losing millions of dollars due to these unethical numbers. But I don't want to get into that. I want you to think about that when you're asking and looking at who will help you. Who's been here the longest? Who sticks with you through thick and thin? Who's a flash in the pan? Who's boosting their numbers unnaturally? Who's trying to get sponsorships and does it because they know the ad revenue is bad? Are you helping the people that really care about you, or are you helping the people that only care about themselves? Okay, that's not part of the notes, but those are things that I want you to think about. So let's get back to, let's get back to the basics. Voice lines, DLCs, you can make money with this. You can make a Luthia's voice line DLC, Raked voice line DLC. Miss Impossible. I'm sure a lot of the developers will like Miss Impossible voice line DLC, since they spend days in her chat. When it's crunch time, they've got 3 weeks left to deliver an update. So think about that. That's monetary value. That's thinking outside the box. That's asking people to help you that are willing to help you. And then, we need voice lines for the pooping and peeing. That's my biggest thing for voice line. Like when you play with Danny Trejo or Louis Moncada, you can hear, oh, I'm getting cold. Oh, I need to shit. Oh, I'm going to piss in my pants. You don't get that with a vanilla character. So why am I being punished? I bought all your DLC, but because I don't want to play with those gangster kind of characters, because let's face it, most of them are gangster. They're not vanilla characters, okay? They're not Henry Cavill characters. They're not Brad Pitt characters. They are characters that might not gel with every person, okay? So why am I being punished? Why aren't you giving me an option? Because I'm one of the people that will buy all your DLCs and will support you forever. But why don't I have options? But the people running around with alt accounts, and just wants to use Danny Trejo for an unfair advantage, they are being helped. So we need those voice lines. And the reason I'm talking about voice lines is my character needs to tell me when he needs to take a piss. Instead of me just reading here in the corner that, if I don't go now, I'm going to pee my pants. That is just text coming up on the side of my screen. How am I supposed to focus on the text on this side of the screen if I'm here? If I'm spending a lot of time in here, I can miss that text on the left-hand side of the screen very, very easily, okay? So whether you have different DLC voice lines, whether you make a Luathias and a Raked and a Feudal or whatever voice lines, or whether you just make a vanilla voice line with one anonymous person, it doesn't matter. It will improve the majority of your players' gameplay. Females need a female voice. Like, females don't even have a female DLC character. There's nothing warning them when they're going to pee in their pants. Like, I've got a vanilla character here.
Get off my lawn. Get away from me, scumbag.
Okay, so there are sayings, but this guy's not going to tell me when he's getting cold. This guy's not going to tell me when he needs to pee or he needs to poop. Okay? So we need audible indicators of what we need to do. And then just side notes that I added to point 4 is base building DLC. We need washing lines. We need showers, toilets. And then the biggest thing of all is the decontamination chambers. But we can look at that in the next point. Okay? So I'm just going to make a note here that I actually want to extend the decontamination chambers, because I think the decontamination chambers are very, very important. But in any case, decontamination chambers and better tables. Like, we got the beautiful kitchens, but the big kitchen table still looks like crap, So there's a lot more space there for DLCs. We've got marble tops on the kitchen, but then we've got a kitchen table that looks like we cut the tree down outside, so we can still get a lot more decorations, railings, plus more base designs. Like this, the starting screen Okay, the starting screen isn't there anymore. But the starting screen with the stairs that was over here. You had like railings inside the house, which I wanted to use, but we don't have those railings. I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. We don't have those railings. And then another thing is candles, portable lights, they must stay in the flag radius. When you build a base, letting the candles and the lanterns disappear, I don't see a reason for that. Like everything used to disappear. The grills, the fire grills, everything disappeared from the base when you added grills and generators and stuff like that. Now, my question is, if you can make sure that my grill doesn't disappear, my fridge doesn't disappear, my generator doesn't disappear, why can't you let the lantern and the candle? Why are you letting the lantern and the candle disappear? If you're saying we can't have that many light sources on the server, fine, let the candle die out if it's not maintained. I'm sure the candle does die out if it's not maintained. I'm sure the lantern will die out if it's not maintained. But the portable lights, give me a place to snap it. Like the portable lights can be really cool on outer walls, but we need to be able to snap it somewhere. It's the small things that count. So yes, this is not 0.5, this is just an expansion on the decontamination chamber. Again, I think you need to do a poll on how many people have gone into the radiation zone and how many people have actually gotten uranium and crafted scrap ammo enough to kill a sentry. How many people are actually actively going into the radiation zone so that you can have a graph of how much that part of your map is being used. Is it being used a lot by your most experienced players? Yes. Is it being used by 80% of your casual players? No. I promise you that the radiation zone is not a PvP zone. The only time that I PvP in a radiation zone is when I kill players that have my skill level. I don't really fight players that are casual players. Not many people go into the radiation zone because not many people, casual players aren't competitive. Casual players don't use exploits. Like most of your players go into the radiation zone, get the loot, put it in a chest or put it in the car. Like the chest, the car won't get radiated. The loot inside the car won't get radiated. If you put all your loot inside a chest, inside the car, it won't get radiated. That is what most of the players that are going to radiation zones are doing. So even your experienced players are not experiencing the radiation zone naturally. They are exploiting the system. They are thinking of workarounds. Instead of dealing with the radiation, they'll rather just let the puppet kill their character, restart with a new character, and then carry on with their game. Not deal with that contamination at all. Not deal with the radiation. They don't deal with ARS. They just let their character die and move on. And then you might say, well, that's punishing with fame. No, it's not punishing with fame. That's like 20% of your fame. And then apparently you I don't understand that you are not thinking about things like this. But when when the people that you favor, which must be a very small minority of people, when those people say they don't want to buy things with fame, or they don't like the fame system, they want to use an exploit or a workaround where they can buy quest items. You give them that option. It's very that is very weird for me, that you are willing to let go of core elements of your game, but you are not willing to add a ton of things to the player experience without breaking the core of your game. And for you to add a decontamination chamber, I don't care how difficult you make it for me to craft it, or how difficult you make it for the player to craft it. But that is a quality of life change. That will not change a player like me. That will not change how regularly I go into how regularly I go into the radiation zone. But it will change how people perceive the radiation zone when they see me going there regularly. Because if a casual player looks at me going to the radiation zone and looking at me take my clothing off and then swimming naked in water and then peeing myself to death and drinking myself to death, nothing about that seems fun. Nothing about that screams, hey, let's go to the radiation zone like Matthias. That's just thanks, but no thanks. Everything about that screams thanks, but no thanks. And even in your description, you say getting rid of radiation can be done with sweating as well. It can't be done with sweating. The only way to get rid of radiation is to, if you're in danger with high levels of radiation, you have to swim to get your radiation down to 14%, and then you have to take off all your clothing and replace it with, clean clothing. And then even the way to get rid of the radiation on your clothing is insane. Like, you have to leave it outside on the ground, but it can disappear outside on the ground. No one's going to leave clothing outside for hours or wear radiated clothing for hours just for it to disappear. That doesn't even make logically sense. Okay? So, giving us a decontamination chamber adds a lot to the base building. Giving us a toilet adds a lot. I don't care if you take the animation that I get when I go and sit on a chair, because I can sit on a chair in the game. So all you do is you change the chair skin to a toilet skin, and then you add a sound when I'm pooping. That's it. Take the chair, cut a hole in it, make it look like a toilet, but the animation is the same as me sitting. All you're doing is you allowing me to do the pooping and the peeing while I'm sitting. That's it. You've got a toilet. Shower might be a little bit more difficult, Bathing, I don't know. But a decontamination chamber will add a lot to your game. And when people see me doing the radiation zone, and then they see me going to the base and using this cool thing that I crafted, that will inspire them to go to a radiation zone. That will inspire them to craft a decontamination chamber, even if it's very difficult to craft a decontamination chamber. I hope we're getting on the same page, even if I, get lost, even if I go off the path here and there. But I hope you guys are understanding what I'm saying. Okay, the further we go down the list, the priority to make these changes will get lower and lower. All of these changes are needed in Scum in 2026, but you can start with the easy ones at the top. Okay, so if you're asking how do we implement these changes, start at number 1 and go down the list. All of them, none of them will take a long time to implement, but all of them are necessary. Okay, so point number 5 is puppet and NPC spawn points need to be improved, not revamped, improved. It's like when you walk up to a certain gas station, and when I mean a certain gas station is this gas station over here. Okay, when you walk up to this gas station in Z3 from the road or from the hill, then NPCs do start spawning in at 150 meters, and I'd say 120 meters. I won't even say 150 meters. I'd say 110 to 120 meters. Puppets and NPCs start spawning in. But then at other gas stations, they only start spawning in at about 50 meters. And then at another gas station, they only start spawning in at 30 meters and then 80 meters. And at this town, they start spawning in when they're right on top of you. Okay? We need a standard so that your players knows how it works. So that your players can become used to it. So that your players don't become frustrated, because if there's one thing that has lost you more than 50% of your core player base, it's the spawn system. Puppets, NPCs, suicide puppets, you name it. Okay? I know you feel your numbers don't look bad, and I'm not going to expand on that. I've spoken about that in the past, why your numbers look so good because of who you have promoted your game to, and those people don't care about your game. But if you look at your core player base, like me, that will die on a mountain with you, which you might think is funny because they left. But if you look at your players that really loved your game, the one thing that made them leave is the new system. Now, a lot of people have left for reasons that I don't agree with. Like, a lot of people want you to remove the horde, the horde system. I don't agree with that. Okay, those are in the minority. The majority of your players wants your puppets and your NPCs to spawn in a stable, repeatable way that they can deal with and be ready for, instead of an unstable way that frustrates them and gets them killed where they feel they couldn't really do anything about it. Like, the reason you've lost half of your core player base after the new puppet system is because people rage quit. People don't like losing their stuff. People have gear fear. People don't like dying and then running back to their body and not finding their body. And I mean, I don't even have that on my list. But yeah, little side note, maybe you can improve how people find their body. I don't know, in Rust, there's a bag there or something. In Scum, all the items disappear in about 20 to 25 minutes. But sometimes it's hard for people to find their bodies. And without scummap.com and no way to zoom into the map, it's extremely difficult to find your body. Now, if you don't want us to find our body and you want to tell us, no, you must be punished when you die, then don't let us find our body. But since the option is there to get your loot back or to loot someone that you killed, you can't tell a player, no, that is there just so that if someone else kills you, at least they can get your loot. That's not really there so that if you die, you never lose anything. No, clearly players don't understand it that way. So you have to make it easier for them to find their bodies. Instead of me having to press Control C go to Scum map, zoom into the map, because a lot of us die in the, look at that. Look at your map. Just look at your map. If I die at that tree, it's going to be very, I might be able to find my body at that tree. I might be able to find my body if I die there. I might be able to find my body if I die there on top of that snow mountain hill. 90% of your casual players will never find their body. And that's what I want you to realize. Your experienced players like me just goes on. Like, whether we find our body or we don't find our body, we don't really care. But your hardcore survival players are not your casual players. And since you promoted this game to the wrong country, which destroyed all your official servers, which I'm not going to talk about, you might as well promote your game to all the casual players that are not your hardcore players and make it easier for them. Quality of life. Think of ways to make your game less rage quit inducing. I'm not asking you to make Scum easier. I'm asking you to look at what your casual players struggle with and make it less frustrating. Not easy, not more easy, less frustrating. So if I know how far NPCs are going to spawn away from me, and I know how far puppets are going to spawn away from me, and I know that the spawn system is stable and works correct, instead of being like a lucky packet, that will help me a lot. And then even the despawn, not only the spawning, the despawning. You have got a loot puppet, but as soon as you want to loot the loot puppet, a horde comes. So an experienced player like me will, I don't care what you call it, I won't call it an exploit, I'll just call it experience. Because I know what's going to happen, I will run over the loot puppet, go into a bush, let the horde, and the bush or the wall must be very close to the loot puppet because I know what's going to happen if I don't do it that way. Then I wait for the horde to stand still, kill them all, and loot the loot puppet. Your casual player is going to go, wow, that's a nice puppet. Then he's going to try and loot it. Then the horde's going to spawn on him, and then he's going to run away and try and kill the horde or react to the horde. He's not going to be 10 steps ahead like me. He's going to be 10 steps behind. So now he runs away for the horde, comes back, the puppet is gone. Or 5 NPCs spawn on him. By the time he's killed the 5th NPC or he kills an NPC with a gun, then a horde spawns, then he runs away from the NPCs, then he goes back and the NPCs are gone. That is not fun. I'm not saying let everything stay there forever. I'm saying make sure that all NPCs and puppets spawn at least 200 meters away from you. Okay? And you and your entire team can figure out how to do that realistically with people coming into a zone and leaving a zone and coming into a zone and leaving a zone. You guys can figure that out. If I enter the zone, the puppet spawn in at 200 meters and they stay there for at least 10 minutes after I've left the zone. Okay, so if somebody else comes in, they will see the puppets even earlier, which tells them someone is there. Okay? But if you let the puppet spawn in at 200 meters, it's going to be very difficult for experienced PvPers to manipulate the system. Because the past, when all the puppets spawning on top of you, people just used to drive through a town with a vehicle, and if there were puppets at the police station or if there were puppets in the town, they knew there's a player there, they get out, they kill the player. Because there's an unrealistic way to figure out if a player's already there. Which frustrates your player base because they know Now it's difficult for them to blame themselves, but it's very easy for them to blame you by saying the developers brought in this shit puppet system, and that's why I'm getting killed, because these puppets that are spawning on top of me is giving my location away. So if people drive through a town and there's already puppets there, then they know I'm here and they can kill me. If there's no puppets there, then they can just drive through the town because they know there's no puppets. Like, all the experienced players and the hardcore no-life PvPers are exploiting every single thing they can for their own benefit, but letting tons of people rage quit. So your systems are being manipulated and your casual players are suffering. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay, point number 6. The hunting and tracking can be improved. Again, not revamped, just improved. There is still a lot of people that have a problem with the hunting, but at least it's mixed. You know, sometimes you see the animal, sometimes you have to hunt the animal. I just feel it can be improved by tracking the animal. So if I hear an animal, I can follow the sound, get the clue, click on the clue. It tells me what direction the animal went in. Okay, but once I see an animal and the animal runs away, there's no clue for me to track the animal. So if I hear the animal when it actually doesn't exist, which breaks immersion, that's why people don't like this hunting system, is because when I hear the animal doesn't exist. I have to go to clues, so their footsteps made a sound, and now I have to go to the footsteps that are making a sound, and then I have to go to the poop on the grass that's making a sound. That's not realistic. All I'm saying is we need to have tracking mechanisms as well, except for the fact that people don't like listening for animal sounds that don't exist. They also don't like losing the animal that they just spent 10 minutes tracking. Okay, if you let them walk to the poop and then to the sticks and then to the footsteps and then to something else and then the animals in front of them, and they're a casual player and the animal hears them and the animal runs away, then they've just spent 10 minutes and they don't have an animal. How to improve Scum in 2026 is making sure that you don't make your game easier for players, you just make Scum less frustrating for players. Okay, so if there's a theme for how to improve Scum in 2026, less frustration, more stability, less bugs, more communication. Less changes that you are not telling us about, and then we have to pay the price. There's a lot of updates that you do with changes that you didn't mention in the update notes that cost your server owners a lot of time because the servers don't work like they used to work anymore, or the servers are resetting for no reason, or the servers are crashing for no reason. You must take more responsibility with these things. Now, you've already created a test server, for the new loot. I think that needs to be a permanent thing. Every update needs to be tested first before you bring out an update, because you've got more than 10,000, hopefully it's 10,000. I know like 3 years ago you had about 6,000 server owners. Hopefully, now that they can run their own servers, hopefully it's at 10,000. You've got 10,000 server owners that are paying money to support your players, to give your players an experience that they are looking for. But you are punishing those server owners by doing updates that break the player experience because the update hasn't been vetted or tested. And that frustrates players because they feel you don't care. Your players needs to know that you care with your actions, not with your words. Actions speak louder than words. Okay? So tracking. So not only must I be able to track an animal when it runs away, because instead of me looking at poop on the ground or looking at sticks on the ground that you placed there, it broke sticks. It's got tracks. Like there must be a way for me to track it. So we need a tracking system so that if a player spends 10 minutes tracking an animal, he won't lose it because he's not Luthias. Okay? Or he doesn't have 5,000 hours or 10,000 hours in the game. Casual players are supposed to enjoy the experience as well. And then when you shoot an animal, there should be a blood trail. Icarus has quite a simplistic blood trail mechanic. You don't have to make it complicated. You can just say, I don't know, I'm not a programming pro, but programming basically means if this, then that. So if the animal gets shot, it leaves a blood trail on the ground at its location every 30 seconds or every 50 meters. Okay, so I must be able to track the animal because it's going to leave a blood trail on the ground every 50 meters or every 30 seconds or every 10 seconds. You have to balance that as well with what feels good. But that needs an improvement. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I always test things before I complain about them. So I have tested the fishing. If anyone can give me video proof that the fishing is still broken, please do so. The fishing was point number 7. The fishing has been broken for years, but I've tested the fishing now, and it seems like you definitely can't throw the line as far as you used to be able to throw the line. Even like on full power, it still feels like you're just throwing the line like 20 or 30 meters in front of you. So it definitely looks like they made a change in the background, which they didn't tell us about. So I've tested the fishing now, which has been broken for years. And what I mean by broken is if you don't drop the fishing line into the water and you throw it, then you lose everything. You lose the line, the bait, everything, and makes fishing really, really frustrating. I have tested it now on my test server, and it seems to work. If you guys can give me any video proof in Discord that is still broken, maybe I can send that proof to the developers so they can see how to improve it even more, because I feel fishing is a big part of the game. Although a lot of people are exploiting it, but I mean, taking the controls away so that people can't catch fish with just their keyboard, and acting like they know how to fish when they are literally just cheating because they're not using the mouse scroll wheel. They are using the controls. They're changing the controls to reel the fish in. And then because they're reeling the fish in within a split second, the game can't even function that the line is breaking. So a lot of people are exploiting your fishing system, but I mean, whatever. People are always going to cheat. People are always going to exploit. There are always going to be degenerate people in the world that don't want to learn anything and just want to get everything handed to them like little babies. But in any case, you've already let people do quests by buying items, which is, in my opinion, definitely giving in to something that makes no sense. Like putting all the time into the game to create quests and then removing the quests, because I think on all your official servers you can buy quest items. So yeah, there's a lot of aspects about the game that is baby proof. Okay, so I don't think people exploring the fishing is something to write home about. As long as the other people that want to play your game naturally and want to help other people to enjoy your game instead of just instead of just trying to look good, you know, the fishing works at the moment. But that was point number 7. I don't know if the fishing can be improved. All I know is that I haven't fished for about 2 years, because as soon as I don't want to drop my line into the water. I want to fish. Like, I want to throw my line. And every time I threw my line, I lost everything on my fishing rod, which was frustrating, especially if you play on a hardcore server or a low loot setting server. So I haven't fished for like 2 or 3 years, but I'll definitely start fishing now if it's fixed, but it can definitely be looked at. And then the eye indicator, you guys can see at the moment the eye indicator is on, but there's nothing looking at me. Okay, so if you want to know what the eye indicator is, it's this thing right here. Okay, so there's the sound indicator when you make a noise, and that's the eye indicator if something's looking at you, but nothing is looking at me. Okay, nothing. I mean, if I hide here, nothing can be looking at me, and that eye indicator is still on. Okay, so that's point number 8. Like I say, the longer we go down the list, the less important it becomes. But I mean, that eye indicator, a lot of people use that eye indicator so that an NPC can't just shoot them in the back of the head. A lot of times the sound, the sound design of the game is not great. We can make that point number 9. The directional sound of the game can definitely be improved. But yeah, that eye indicator doesn't work. And then the last point is just focus on your player experience. Focus on less frustration. Okay? Give us more options. Give us more ways to enjoy ourselves. And you will improve Scum in 2026. Everyone knows I'm waiting for the Tech 1 soldiers and the Wild Hunters. Those are 2 big things that I'm waiting for. But I mean, I'm going to wait forever, until Gamepires decides to give up on Scum. I'll never give up on Scum. Okay, so I'll be waiting for the Tech 1 soldiers and the Wild Hunters forever. But yes, tell me what you think about these changes. Like, if you don't want to add your own suggestions, just tell me how. Like, I basically said like 9. I mentioned like 9 points. And then I expanded on, some points. So give me a score out of 10. How many points did you agree with? How many points didn't you agree with? And when I say when you don't agree, don't disagree with me, because I'm not saying what you want me to say. If you disagree, then you are telling me you don't think that will improve the casual player's experience. Okay? So when you vote in a way where you are telling me, out of your 10 points, I only feel so many out of 10, will really improve the casual player experience. If you hate the game, if you don't play the game anymore, really don't tell everyone why you rage quit the game. Be constructive. Even if you did rage quit the game, then suggest something that made you, then suggest an improvement that would have stopped you from rage quitting. Okay, let's leave the negativity outside of this conversation. Let's be constructive. Let's help the developers to understand what we want and how to make this game better. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, click the like button. I will be setting up a document. And then, because, maybe they don't want to watch the entire hour video, So we'll be setting up a detailed document, which they will be putting into folders, and looking at when they've got time for it. And then we can always come back to this at the end of the year to see what they implemented and what they didn't implement, if they are listening to us or whether they're not listening to us. And then, like I say, if they implemented a lot of the things, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 out of the 9 things, like if they just do the first 4, I'll be extremely happy, So if they implement that, then we can always come back to this video, see which of your suggestions got the most likes, which suggestion got the most likes, and then suggest that to them at the end of this year. And then, the more I feel I'm not wasting my time, we can always make a video of endgame. I would like to make a video of how they can improve the experience for their hardcore fans, their OG players. I know there's a lot of players, a lot of content creators who still can't do a kill box on their own, who doesn't do abandoned bunkers and stuff like that. But I'm not talking about those content creators. I'm talking about the players that have experienced everything there is to experience in the game and end game. I don't feel Scum has an end game. I feel the only end game at the moment is an abandoned bunker, because with my experience, if I don't want to experience everything the game has to offer, I can literally run into a abandoned bunker on day 1 and become fully geared, within a day with the experience that I have. So, when you're looking at getting loot really fast, there is no faster way than an abandoned bunker, if you know what you're doing, because of Brenner's armories and the kill box. So, I'd like to give a few suggestions of how they can make Scum a lot more fun for people that have done everything in the game, focusing on end game content. So, maybe I'll do a video like that later. But that's it from me, guys. I just want to put it in video format. Like, they don't need me to make a video. They just want me to make a document. They wanted me to give them the document like last year. I saw the writing on the wall. I've been doing this for 8 years. Well, I've been covering Scum for 8 years. I've been running multiple servers for 5 years. I know when it looks like, promises are going to be fulfilled, and promises are not going to be fulfilled. There's a lot of things that I look out for, patterns that you learn over years. So I knew they weren't going to give us the wild hunters. I knew that, they weren't going to give us everything that they wanted 1.0 to be. So hopefully at the end of this year, they will be able to give us everything that they wanted the full release of Scum to be. And that's why I took a bit more time to look at these ideas. And, I've got 50 other things, but it's I basically, instead of giving them 50 things that they must change, I gave them 9 things that I feel they can change this year without, really disrupting their workflow. Just things that will really help enhance the player experience. And then, if they want ideas from me for endgame, nothing stops them from DMing me. Any developer can DM me at any time, with suggestions. But they need to make me part of the family. They might need to think of me as part of the family. If they keep on thinking of me as someone who just insults them or tells them what they're doing wrong or challenges them, or they think of me as egotistical or whatever people think of me, that will not help. But I really need us to put our differences aside. Let bygones be bygones. Like, tomorrow forget about today. Let's start on a fresh page and let's just help one another. Okay? Let's stand together. We all love this game. So let's act like people that are fighting for the same cause instead of people that are trying to, I don't know, enter a popularity contest with who's more important than who. We're all on the same team. Let's act like it. Cheers.